Natalie Willis here from the Baby Sleep Trainer. Today, we are talking about your biggest concerns when it comes to sleep training. One of the huge benefits of having worked with so many families is that sometimes I can survey them to learn about different things that worry or concern them or things that they're interested in. And in our research at Baby Sleep Trainer, we have found that there are three major concerns that families have before they enter into sleep training. The three concerns tend to be crying. How much crying will there be? Attachment. Will sleep training ruin the attachment my baby has to me? And maintenance. How do I even keep a sleep-trained baby sleep-trained over the long term? Is it a lot of work? Am I going to be able to have the discipline in my life in order to be able to maintain these great sleep habits that my child has developed? I'm actually going to put the crying and the attachment together because really those are two sides of the same coin. There is a tremendous amount of misinformation on the internet around crying and whether or not it is harmful to babies. One thing that's important to understand is that crying is an expression of how your child feels, and they feel a lot of things, and any negative feeling that they have is typically only able to be expressed via crying. I've also found that some babies tend to express themselves a lot better and a lot more than others. Really easygoing babies tend to kind of just roll with things and not cry very much in general at all. And more sensitive or touchy babies tend to cry a lot more. Even when most or all of their needs are met, they tend to just feel a little bit more sensitive they tend to be a little bit more sensitive about the world and they cry a bit more. One of the reasons it's so important to have a really great sleep training plan before you begin and knowing how you're going to address all of the different elements of sleep training, bedtime, overnight feedings, naps, the bedroom, the whole shebang, is because being really prepared and knowing exactly what you're doing at every step and even having someone you can ask questions to, like a sleep coach, is going to ensure that your child reduces the amount of crying that they do as much as possible. One of the main goals at Baby Sleep Trainer is helping babies become independent sleepers with the least amount of tears possible. The whole process can be a little counterintuitive, but doing your research, exploring your resources, and getting a good plan in place and maybe working with a coach is important because that's going to help your child only cry the absolute minimum amount as they express their frustration at having to learn a new thing. And that's really why babies are crying during sleep training, is that they don't really know how to fall asleep without help. You're taking away the thing that they think that they need to go to sleep and they're expressing their frustration around it. Anyways, most parents don't realize that they really can reduce the amount of crying their child does with a really great sleep plan. Again, the other side of this coin is going to be that attachment. Babies are, for the most part, very, very securely attached to their parents. Certainly, every parent I have ever worked with seems to love and have a really solid attachment to their baby. And there has never been a study that shows that sleep training actually affects a child's attachment to their parent. A lot of people want to believe that there is and intentionally misinterpret data, or maybe they don't understand the data that they're reading and they want to make you think that crying and sleep training affects your baby's attachment to you, but the fact is, it isn't true. Also, if you go online and you do some research on families who have successfully sleep trained, you're pretty much not going to find a family who successfully sleep trained and has a child that has continued on with great sleep habits that believe that it's affected their attachment, or at least I've never found one in the thousands and thousands of families that I know and that I've worked with. Because once the initial process of sleep training is done, children are generally a lot happier and a lot healthier. So basically, the affecting of the attachment is kind of a myth, and there really isn't any data, scientific data to support that. Finally, how do you maintain these habits? The discipline, definitely true. I like to think about sleep training a little bit like being gluten-free or maybe having an exercise regime. The more consistent you are, the more you're going to get out of it, and the same thing is true with sleep. No one's going to be perfect all the time. There isn't a family that I know that is able to be 100% perfect all of the time following all sleep training guidelines, and that's okay, life happens. But you really want to follow kind of like an 80-20 rule. 80, maybe 85, 90% of the time, try to be really consistent with your child falling asleep independently, sleeping at home, maintaining their schedule, and know that as they get older, it's actually easier to maintain their habits because they sleep less during the day, you have a little bit more freedom to go out and about and do the things that you need to do. And then the 10 or 20% of the time that you find that you do need to be on the go, or you have to kind of break those little guidelines or rules that you follow, it's easier for them to get back on track as long as those disruptions are pretty brief or consist of a very small percentage of your child's waking hours. So it's usually not as challenging as you think to maintain success, and it's really worthwhile. You get a lot out of maintaining great sleep habits for your children and having good discipline around their sleep. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel.